Webinar has already started.
Okay, great.
Started as well.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the technical glitch for the few seconds. Good morning from India, good afternoon and good evening and greetings to all of you joining us today from across the globe. My name is Mika Hannah Paul and I work with GIZ in India on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ, GIZ India and the International Water Management Institute. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome each and every one of you joining us today to this session on climate resilient integrated water management for adaptation in South Asia at the Stockholm World Water Week that is being held as a full-scale digital event from 23rd to 27th of August 2021. I'm joined by my colleague and friend Shiv Verma from the International Water Management Institute in India, and we will be moderating this session together.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Shiv. Let me start by asking you to join us for the questions put up in the polls session in our event window on the Pathable platform. Please add your answers as it would be helpful for us and the panelists to get an overall idea about who is in the room, what are your key expectations from this session, as well as your views and experiences on some of the key topics that we will be discussing here today. You are welcome to leave your card using the function available on Pathable, or you can mention your details in the comment section on the Pathable platform to allow networking and future contact with you. Let me also introduce you to our discussion paper on agreed typologies that is available in the Files tab on the Pathable platform for your inputs and comments. We will be discussing insights from this draft publication during our presentation as well. You can share your feedback and comments via the comment section on Pathable and also later through email to the IDs mentioned on this slide. Before I hand over to Shiv to describe the context and agenda of our session, let me once again remind all our speakers today that we are on a tight schedule and hence kindly keep up to the time limits of 5 to 7 minutes per speaker. Your moderator may remind you in case we are running out of time and request you to kindly adhere to their instructions. Please let us know of any other concerns via the chat function. Once again, I welcome you all to our session. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I now hand over the moderation to Shiv. Thank you.
Thanks, Mika, and hi, everyone. We are basically going to talk about something which is very closely linked to the theme of the World Water Week this year. We are talking about building resilience faster in the World Water Week. And what we are going to discuss is pretty much similar, but we are going to focus on our experiences in India and how different programs are trying to leverage public investments to build the resilience of communities through co-financing mechanisms by encouraging convergence and all of it towards climate adaptation. Now, some of you might know this, but India has probably one of the world's largest social protection schemes called the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. This basically offers minimum of 100 days of employment to anyone who is willing to work at minimum wages. Because of the size of our population, it covers, I think, more than 50 million households every year. So it is, in one sense, one of the world's largest social protection schemes. And a lot of the investments that are made through these public works that are done under this program are for natural resource management, especially water and climate resilience. So we are going to see how we can use public data sets around this program and how we can leverage the investments in this program and converge with other similar government investments to maximize their net positive impact. We are also going to talk a little bit about, Mika mentioned the typologies draft discussion paper that we have shared on the platform. What we want to do in this session is to share our initial results in that effort and also get some feedback from all of you so that we can finalize it. Now, the way this session is planned is that we will start with the input presentation from EME and GIZ. We have with us Rajiv Ahal from GIZ and Dr. Alok Sikka from EMI, who will be making that presentation. After that, we are going to have a short panel discussion where we have representatives from the Ministry of Jal Shakti, which is the Water Resources Ministry in India, the Ministry of Rural Development, as well as the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation in India. Now, these panelists will talk about some of the results that we present, but also on what is happening within the different programs that they are supporting and how these can be leveraged to achieve the objectives of climate resilient communities. After this panel discussion, we will have some time for question and answer, and hopefully we can get some participation from all of you. But you can keep also posting your questions through the chat function, and somebody from our team will keep compiling them so that even if we are not able to answer all of them during the session, we could get back to you and reach out to you at the end of the event. Without further ado, let me introduce the two speakers who are going to start the initial presentation. Mr. Rajiv Ayal is the Director for Natural Resource Management and Agroecology in the Environment and Natural Resource Management and Climate Change Cluster in GIZ. He manages the project under which a lot of this work is being done, which is the VASCA project, Water Security and Climate Adaptation in Rural India, besides several other projects. And he has vast experience in India. He's going to also be joined by Dr. Alok Sikka from EMI, who is the EMI India country representative and also has worked with the Indian Council for Agricultural Research for several years. And both of them are going to give you an overview of the work that GIZ and EMI have been doing together. And then we'll follow that up with the panel discussion, as I mentioned. So without further ado, over to you, Rajiv and Alok.
Shilp, I'm sorry, we have a situation. Rajiv is still not able to join the meeting. He's trying to join the meeting. Let me ask the direct link can still be sent. But in the meanwhile, let me start the session to avoid any time lapse.
Sure. We can
move on to the next
slide. Yeah.
Yes, good morning again. So I'm presenting on behalf of Rajiv Ahal, our Director of Natural Resource Management and Agroecology at GIZ India. This project is on water security and climate adaptation in rural India. This is commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ, in partnership with the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And we are very happy to have the high-level officials from both ministries joining us today in the panel discussion as well. The project is implemented by GIZ India. Next slide, please. So Project VASCA focuses on enhancing the water resource management through an integrated approach at national, state, and local levels with respect to water security and climate adaptation. As far as SDGs are concerned, we very much link to the SDG number 6 on clean water and sanitation, but also have indirect contributions to SDGs 1, 2, and 13. As far as the approach is concerned, we mainly focus on harnessing the digital potential of the government programs, such as the Mahatma Gandhi Nirega, National Water Mission, Catch the Rain campaign, among others, through our approach on composite water resource management that is built using spatial and non-spatial data sets and is being rolled out to 5,000 plus local governments across the country, as you can see on the India map on the right side. Going forward, as a technical support project of the Indo-German cooperation, we also have a very high focus on capacity building, and we have trained more than 5,000 government and technical workforce at the state and local levels on the digital planning approaches as well as implementation of the CWM framework. Establishing convergence and steering mechanisms for sustainability of the planning and monitoring mechanisms we put in place is also a key area of focus. Anchoring the climate adaptation into the rural development programs establishing synergies and co-benefits and scope for mainstreaming has also been our focus area. Next slide, please. As far as the process is concerned, the whole approach of CWRM is focused on integrating sectoral and spatial aspects using modern and scientific tools and relevant climate information. And the administrative and natural scalars for operationalization are further harmonized. There is a huge emphasis on location and context-specific interventions. So it's a universal approach which has the scope for contextualization to the rural context of the specific area, as well as implementation and coordination with the government partners and other stakeholders. There are mechanisms put in place. Below, you will find resources to our knowledge products, which are very much available in the file section on Pathable. And to take some examples of the key features of the CWRM framework, it has a huge focus on water in terms of increasing surface water storage, access to water, groundwater management, etc., while also looking at other critical elements related to water security in terms of soil moisture conservation, land and vegetation related activities. Next slide, please. Just to put the results in place, as well as to give you an idea about how our works look like. As I've already mentioned, we have covered the planning process in 5,000 plus local councils. This has led to the identification of 700,000 plus interventions on water security and climate adaptation. And these are being undertaken in convergence with the government's rural development programs in the 5 states that we mentioned. And some of the works that we are undertaking also relates to rejuvenation of existing water bodies for enhancing water storages, integrated horticulture plantation development, greening of hillocks for integrated drought management. And you can very well see the works that are happening on the right side of the slide. Next slide, please. Yes. So I'm going to stop here and hand over to Dr. Sika in the context of the VASCA project and its collaboration with the International Water Management Institute for strengthening the climate resilience in rural India. The discussion paper, as well as further ideas that we are collaborating on, will be shared by Dr. Sika. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mika. And so let me take it forward from where Mika has left. And so my own word of welcome to all the delegates. As Mika mentioned that IMI-GIZ collaboration, we are looking into how to strengthen the climate resilience in the rural sector. And so we're working at 3 levels, as you can see on the slide. Firstly, as we were talking about the climate resilient water management, and then the secondly on going forward that if you have to do the implementation at a final scale and doing it more granularity, how are the typologies? So we classify the country into various agri-water typologies, which will eventually help us in undertaking those interventions, which are more specific, and also identifying proper investments. So that's where that we work at the level 3. And also besides that, we are also working on how best we can harmonize the planning for administrative units along with the hydrological units. Of course, as we said, as Shilp already indicated, this is the work in progress, and we would definitely like to have your feedback as well. So next, please. And so in the next slide, what we are just going to share with you is what Mika and Shilp already indicated. You know that the thinking here was that how best we try and bring the climate resilient water management. Now we have in this kind of a work and report, which is available on the web, is what are the various interventions, right from water resource assessment to demand management and the institutions, what are the various best practices in terms of climate resilient water management. And then after that synthesis, we try and project that, you know, the finance is the main thing. Now, in case of the financing, because without finance, you just can't do it. So as Shilp was also mentioning a point that here, because we are working with one of the biggest flagship programs, which is biggest ever international program on the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Act, and how best we can leverage the funds from other sources together with the Employment Guarantee Act in trying to build a more meaningful and more impactful investments in trying to see that how best we can bring in the climate resilience. So this is the slide. You will see that all these various government departments, whatever the various schemes and the programs are there, how they are investing on the demand management. Next slide, please. And in the same, yes, here, this is something that what we call the climate smart villages, where you have a water smart and nutrient smart, energy smart, and the knowledge smart. So here, just an example, I would like to suggest here that water smart, like in case of water smart things, whether it be surface water, groundwater, soil moisture. So what interventions are there? How best we can try and make the better convergence, like with the Rural Guarantee Act and the Prime Minister's irrigation scheme, which is one of the national flagship programs, and very recently launched Water Resources Ministry's program on Atal Bhujal Yojana, which is a participating water management. So this is just to share with you an example. So we have brought out a report also on convergence and co-financing opportunities in trying to address this issue. The next slide, please. So now, once we have done that, in the next slide, what we are going to share with you is that in order for all these things to happen in a very granular way, we are trying to look into how best we can classify the entire country, the districts, into various agri-water typologies. But mind you that here we are trying to look into very, very simplistic way because the data which is easily available on a regular basis. So what we have done over here is that this will help us in trying to see guiding our investments and the planning at enhancing water productivity, which is what we have taken more crop per drop as a bottom line objective for this kind of a thing. Now here, in order to try to do that, we have taken into consideration the yield gap and also the cropping intensity. And then on that, we try and look into the groundwater availability and aridity. We started off with 4 broader classifications like high yield and high cropping intensity, high yield and low cropping intensity, and so on and so forth, like the 4 broader categories. And then we have gone into the subcategories depending upon what is the availability of the water resources in that area. And I would not be in a position to go into all the details of all the 7 typologies which have been presented here. Let me just tell just an example on the right-hand side on the top, which we call it as unsustainable. Means where you have a very high yield and high cropping intensity, but it's unsustainable because in this northwestern India, there's high exploitation level of groundwater. So that's the kind of a situation where it's a kind of unstable. And so that's the kind of the way that we are trying to classify the districts into various categories. This will help us in trying to see that how best we can move forward by taking potential interventions. Next, please. In the next slide, so from here, then we drill down to the district level. Once we have done this thing, we drill down to the district level typology. And then within the district, we are also now working on how best we can go into the sub-district level typologies. Next, please. And then at the district level, we try and look into what are the various constraints and the problems in terms of the water, land, energy, and agriculture, in terms of the availability, yields, soil health, and what are the possible technological interventions that we can suggest. These are not the things that these are not being undertaken. Maybe they are undertaken, but at a very small scale. So how best we can really strengthen them and bring in rather more of a co-management of various interventions. So this is something that we are looking into, that we are going down from the national level to the district level, and eventually we are planning to go into the sub-district level to try and have a more granular way of trying to plan the entire gamut of the things. So the next slide, you will see that the next one is just not a slide, just a thank you slide, and also that you can reach out to us with your suggestions as In the very beginning, we said, because this is a discussion paper on the agri typologies, and we'll be happy to have any kind of feedback to further improve upon that. Thank you. Over to you, Mika.
Thank you, Dr. Sikka, and apologies for the technical issues, but we now have Rajiv with us. So Rajiv, would you like to add something to the presentation? We're sorry we missed you. And also we have Mr. Rohit Kumar also joining us, and he also had some issues. But welcome to both of you. And Rajiv, if you'd like to add something before we move on.
Good morning to everybody, and thank you. I think this is a wonderful time for us to share the experiences. I think what is important about this topic, why water? And I think if you look at climate change and UN water policy brief of 2019, it clearly says that water is to adaptation what energy is to mitigation. So in a sense, if really we want to get into adaptation, water is going to be the key. It moves life, it moves livelihood. So therefore, this is a common topic for work. And what is interesting about what we are presenting today, that is not just a technical pilot done. What is, I think, very impressive and amazing, that's actually a cooperation at the highest level in the government of India between Ministry of Rural Development, which probably has the highest allocation for rural water interventions in the country, as well, if you look at globally as well. And also the Ministry of Jal Shakti represented by National Water Mission. And then GIZ along with IVMI. I think bringing all these experiences together to bear on figuring out a way of how to do this, not perfectly at a small size, but actually in a way where it can be scaled up and be able to help the governments at national and state level be able to actually take up water related stresses to be solved, groundwater issues to be solved, create sustainable livelihoods, bring in climate resilience, all of this within the ambit of existing government funding and available programs. So there's no need to only look for a separate climate financing, that this could actually become part of what we do on a daily basis. So with those words and recognizing Sikaji as well, that we have Mr. Rohit Kumar, Joint Secretary, who leads Mahatma Gandhi Narega at a national level, and also Mr. Ashok Kumar, the Managing Director for National Water Mission, and also the Additional Secretary in the Ministry. We are very happy, and I look forward to the panel discussion. Thank you, Shilp. Back to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Before I hand over to my colleague Vaibhav from GIZ to moderate the panel discussion, I just want to encourage all of you. We have more than 65 participants in the session to please download the discussion paper that we have shared, go through it and send us your comments either through the chat here or also over email. We would love to hear from you and respond to you. Over to you, Vaibhav.
Thank you, Shilp. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be moderator for the important panel discussion on leveraging social protection development program for financing climate resilient water management and better targeting of interventions. We have a top-notch panel for our discussion today. Let me firstly introduce our three key speakers, and I also request them to switch on their cameras for discussion. Let me start with Mr. G. Ashok Kumar, IAS, who is currently Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Jal Shakti and Managing Director of the National Water Mission, one of the 8 missions under India's National Action Plan for Climate Change. Next, we have Mr. Rohit Kumar, sir, again an Indian Administrative Service Officer from Rajasthan Cadre 1997 batch. He's currently the Joint Secretary of Mahatma Gandhi Narega Program at the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Last but not least, we have Ms. Corinne Demenge, Head of International Cooperation at the Swiss Embassy in New Delhi. Dear panelists, we'll first do one round of questions, and if time permits, we will go for another round as well. So with all due permission, I would like to start with my first question to Mr. G. Ashok Kumar. The National Water Mission is one of the 8 missions under India's National Action Plan for Climate Change and is hosted in the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Can you briefly explain the innovations promoted by NWM towards climate resilient water resource management across the national, state, and local levels in India. Over to you, Mr. G. S. Kumar, sir.
Thank you, Iber. Thanks for this platform. We have given in 2004 and 2019 also a part of this. The topic is of utmost importance for national water missions because, as Iber mentioned, this is one of the 8 missions set up national level under the National Action Plan on Climate Change. It has 5 goals and 39 strategies and about 110 action points. So the goal 1 of the National Water Mission deals with the impact of climate change on water resources. Broadly speaking, with about 1,100 millimeter rainfall average throughout the country, with spatial and temporal variation, India has sufficient water, but the problem is of proper management of these water. As everybody knows, India agriculture uses about 85 to 90% of water, and with very poor water use efficiency, which is about 35 to 38%. Our footprint for the production of everything, right from paddy to any food products to even for industrial products, are very high, much higher than any other country. And earlier, we were focusing on the supply side management with building big dams, etc. Almost 5,000 odd big dams are available with us. But then that has also brought in a lot of environmental issues associated with that. But now we are also focusing on the demand side management, particularly with the new water policy, which has been up for discussions, focuses on the demand side. So National Water Mission had also come out with many innovative campaigns for that. So at the demand side, we also had a campaign called Sahi Fasal, which was actually to make farmers, nudging the farmers to go for water, just water intensive crop and use water more efficiently. We had good success in some of the states, clearly in Haryana, convinced the state governments to go for reduction of paddy, which was one of the water guzzling crops. They had actually gone down to about 1 lakh acres of paddy has been reduced in Punjab, in Haryana, and also incentivize the farmers by giving 5,000 rupees, 7,000 rupees per acre for crop diversion. So diversion of crops was one of the outcome of the Sahi Fasal campaigns which we did. And now we are looking at the supply side management in a very decentralized, environment-friendly way. So this is the biggest innovation of the National Water Mission in the recent period. It is a campaign called Catch the Rain Where It Falls, When It Falls. Basically, it is nudging people to store rainwater or build appropriate rainwater harvesting structures, which are suitable to the climatic conditions and the soil conditions, with maximum people's participation before the onset of monsoon, because we should not run the stable after the horses are bolted. So we wanted to have the natural vessels or containers kept ready to catch the rain and ensure maximum storage of water to have probably the tanker apartments, time when summertime where we do not really depend on tankers supplying water, which is a common phenomena in India these days. Climate change has had very big impact in India, with its visible melting of glaciers and shifting of rainfall patterns, high intensity rainfalls, untimely floods and droughts are all seen here. And urban flooding, which was not known for quite some time, has become very frequent. So we are now experiencing the effect of climate change. So we're trying to address it, as I said, these campaigns, which the National Water Mission had been doing. And we also have a lot of studies conducted on climate change and research projects, and also capacity and building and institution buildings projects taken up in the country. I'll come to that in another 2-3 minutes, which is available for me. So there are 4 or 5 major innovations which we have done. One is about the getting the people talk about the water and water related issues. National Water Mission had started something called as a water talk, which happens on every second or third Fridays. We get as many as about 2.5 to 5 million views for the water talks, which is a very, very encouraging thing because starting from a very small 300, 400 or 700 people attending the physical water talk, when we went on to the digital mode, we have, as I said, 2.5 million views, live views coming up for our show. It's an indication that there are people who really follows us and checks about and checks for the various best practices which we showcase in that. In this program, we showcase good practices of from various parts of the country and also helps in maintaining dialogues with the people on the water management and water conservation, etc., etc. So we also have started a water tech talk, which again is more on a technical field, and cutting edge technology of water is also showcased here. It happens on every second Fridays. We also have water talk with called dialogues with DM, where we bring in the district magistrates, the cutting edge set of officials in the field level, talk to us about the best practices on water conservation they do. This happens on every Saturdays, and we have almost more than 100 DMs, district magistrates, and the municipal commissioners and NGOs along with them, showcasing the works they have done. It is all kept in our website, so public can see it also. This is one major success which we have had, was getting people involved and be a part in the dialogue of water and water management. And the second, probably the most important innovation which we have done is the Catch the Rain campaign with the tagline "Catch the Rain where it falls, when it falls." It is probably one of the biggest campaign, water conservation campaign ever in the world, because when it launched on World Water Day by the Honorable Prime Minister on March 22nd, when it was launched, we had almost 2,200,000 Gram Panchayats, that is the lowest level of administration, joining on a virtual mode. We had Sarpanchas listening to them, and a special Gram Sabha being conducted on that day with about 150 to 200 people attending and discussing only on water issue. This is probably a very, very major initiative spreading the information of water down below. And we had the campaign Catch the Rain launched on that with the message of decentralized storage of water. That's where it is very important, because we are moving away or the focus from the big dams, which have a tremendous environmental impact of land acquisition and then dispersion of people, etc. But we are looking at decentralized storage of water. The 4 or 5 major activities underwater harvesting structures, which is probably the most important activity, is taking up rooftop rainwater harvesting structures, enumeration and marking boundaries of the water bodies, and the encroachment removal from the water bodies, deepening and rejuvenation, deepening of those water bodies, rejuvenation of wetlands and rivulets. For all these things, the major funding comes from the Manrega, which is, as I said, as Pally said, probably the largest funding, public funding on public works. That is my friend Rohit is here, who handles the Manrega program. But in our Catch the Rain, we are, even though 95% of our budget is from the Manrega, where the Honorable Prime Minister, when he launched the program on March 22nd, said that till the rain comes, all budget, all the funds available under Manrega should be used for rainwater harvesting structures. That was the impetus given, and that's why we have done more than 450 million euro worth of works so far, small water harvesting structures. And second important thing is our funding is we are also trying to open the urban sector, because this campaign covers entire country, all rural and urban areas. So the focus, Manrega looks at the rural area, but we also have urban area into focus. So Amrit is one scheme which does a lot of program on that. And we also look at inventorizing all the water bodies, scientific planning of all the water harvesting structures, and marking of water bodies as well as all water harvesting structures. And most important is setting up of Jal Shakti Kendras. Jal Shakti Kendras is making an institutionalization of the situation of a water resource body in every district headquarters, which will contain the information of all the water-related activities. This will be helpful in talking about water budgeting and etc. So in a way, this what Catch the Rain campaign is probably one of the largest campaign with a lot of intergovernmental and multi-stakeholder and co-financing partnership, which helps in building capacities of people and looks for the decentralized grassroots level planning and implementation. It is very environment friendly, very cost effective, and involves people in a large way. So that's about it. And also we have something called as a new water policy, which we have formulated. We're helping in formulation. And also we have a lot of initiatives taken up on the wastewater treatment and its reuse. And last of it, we are actually propagating and promoting the idea of the 3 R's. Of course, the reuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle is there. Plus the 2 R's which we have added. One is about the rejuvenation of water bodies and the respect for water. These are some of the innovative things which National Water Mission has been doing, and it has had fantastic impact so far, at least, because a lot of participation is there. We find people from all parts of the country joining in our water talks and also in the activities. And we have many agencies now come forward for funding our projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a very tight schedule, but I think there is a whole dictionary of words which would be, I mean, incomplete to define the spectrum of NWM work which is going on in country. And thank you, sir, for bridging my discussion with NG Narega. You have already mentioned that the main social protection scheme and the co-financing comes from MG Narega. That brings me to the second question to Rohit Kumar sir, that Mahatma Gandhi Narega is the world's largest public works program. Given its coverage and financial outlay, 65% of the annual budget is spent on natural resource management and water-related interventions. Sir, can you specify some of the key contributions from the program towards financing NRM and water-related interventions? Over to you, sir. Rohit Kumar, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Am I audible?
You are audible, sir.
You are, sir.
Thank you. So very good morning to all the distinguished panelists and all the participants. As all of you are aware that Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, it is an act basically, which mandates every rural households, which entitles every rural households to have at least 100 days of guaranteed employment in a financial year, whosoever volunteers to do unskilled manual work. And the second objective of this program to, provide livelihood to such citizens through creation of durable assets. So in this context, as the tone has already been set in this conference, Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, the annual budget, if we talk about, last year it was around 16 billion US dollar. And this year the budget estimate is already 10 billion US dollar. And I'm very happy to share that since inception, we already have spent more than 100 billion US dollar. And out of this, more than 60%, that is around more than 60 billion US dollar has been spent on NRM works itself only. Last year, out of 16 billion US dollar, we spent around 10 billion, 70% of our expenditure was on NRM, 73 rather last year. And this year, current year, we are already, spending around 70.4% on NRM activity, that is natural resource management. So you can see the canvas of the program, and especially its, its contribution towards the natural resource management. So this is the volume we are, dealing with, and I'm very happy to share that under NRM since inception, we have spent 51 billion US dollar, and which completing more than 28 million assets, more than 28 million assets. And out of them, I'm happy to share before this August gathering 4.5 million assets was just on water and water conservation and harvesting structure. And we have spent out of the 51 billion US dollar, 14 billion US dollar only on water harvesting and water conservation structure. The other works which we take under NRM, plantation, all kind of plantation, horticulture work, silvipasture grasslands, farm pond, check dam, dug well, trenches, soak pits, renovation of traditional water bodies, and other, conservation structures. So what we are doing, we are not, constructing in ad hocism manner anymore. We are having GIS plan based on ridge to valley approach, right from the upper ridge to the lower ridge. We are planning all the structures, soil and water conservation and NRM structures, with the help of remote sensing technology. And we are making the plan and we are executing our NRM activities. We are taking up all the gully plugging, the DLTs, the CCTs, the deep CCTs in the upper ridges, and then the, loose boulder check dams and gabions in the mid ridges and all. And the lower ridges, the anicuts, along with plantation and pasture land activities. So it's a very holistic concept. And I'm happy to share here, out of the 269,000 villages, we already have prepared GIS plan for 141,000 villages. So almost 55 to 60% of the villages already have GIS plan, wherein we are constructing, we are taking up the soil and water conservation works, the NRM works based on the GIS plan. And by December, we have promised to the National Water Mission, who are having Catch the Rain campaign, that we are going to prepare GIS plan for all the GPs, by December this year. And I'm also happy to share, day before yesterday, our Honorable Minister inaugurated a portal which is called Yug Dhara portal, which has been prepared with the joint effort of ISRO and Ministry of Rural Development. And this will have, now previously we used to take the pictures, satellite imagery from the Google Maps. Now we have, under Yug Dhara portal, we are directly taking the satellite imagery from ISRO, and all the layers, layer maps, they are also available in the same portal, so that it's a very integrated and indigenous portal. Now we are going to prepare our GIS plan on Yug Dhara. So this is in nutshell. I just wanted to say the kind of emphasis we are giving on NRM works. And I'm also happy to share here that with the help of GIZ and other international partners, we have trained all our engineers, and we are going for now climate resilient structures also. Already we are working in 7 states, and we have already trained our engineer, and we are taking up, we are factoring into the technical estimate itself to take up this climate resilient structure, which will definitely add a long way towards livelihood and water conservation and natural resource management. On behalf of my ministry and on behalf of the program, I assure all the participants here that we are committed towards the natural resource management, which is most needed in this time of all such climate changes happening. We are committed to the climate resilience structure, and we are committed to the adaptation and mitigation, whatever is needed for creating natural resource management. So thank you so much for inviting me to share our views here. And last but not the least, I'm sorry, Ashok sir has already talked about the Catch the Rain campaign and JSA Jal Shakti Abhiyan and Jal Jeevan Mission. We are, Ashok sir knows, we are fully committed to the cause, and in the current year we already have spent more than $5 billion under Catch the Rain campaign, and under Jal Jeevan Mission we are going for the water source sustainability works under Jal Jeevan Mission, and that too based on by mapping the aquifers. So everything now is being done scientifically, aquifer mapped and GIS plan based, and based on the remote sensing data, and a holistic approach is being taken up under Mahatma Gandhi analogy for NRM. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rohit sir. Thank you. It was, I mean, a really crisp presentation, sir, but impactful presentation. Lot of big numbers, and I mean, it is really MG. Mahatma Gandhi and REGA is really is bringing paradigm shift in the sector of NRM and connecting climate resilience. And thank you very much for also focusing on the component of synergies between ministries, between departments to achieve the climate resilience. The key word is synergy here. And taking this word of synergy to our next panelist, I would like to ask my next question to Ms. Corinne Demange. Ms. Corinne, what do you think is the role of international development agencies like the Swiss Development Corporation in enhancing convergence and co-financing activities for water security and climate adaptation? Over to you, Ms. Corinne.
Yes, good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Well, this esteemed panelists, dear participants, it's a great honor to be here on behalf of the Swiss government embassy here in New Delhi. Let me just start saying that the Indian Water Mission and MNREGA are really two initiatives are very special in terms of financing public works. I think that's worldwide. And I think India here has something to export and to show to the other countries. In all the countries I've worked so far, I've not seen such a social protection schemes that is investing in natural resource management. And you've just heard the figures. It's a lot of money that is pumped in, and I'm very happy that also the 60% almost of the funds going to natural resource management. So I think that's very important. And what we've seen concretely, for example, and that's the synergies with a development agency like SDC, is in Sikkim. We've seen in Sikkim, the Sikkim government actually has been able to mobilize MNREGA funds for spring shed management work. And I think when we talk about climate change, we know that the springs across the globe, but also in the Indian Himalayas, are drying up. So I think MNREGA here really helped to boost the work on the ground. Whereas for SDC, we're working also with government, and we're working with different organizations, including Niti Aayog, Ministry of Environment, with IMVI, on how we can revive these spring sheds. And I think what is important, MNREGA is providing a lot of funds, is providing a lot of work, and then SDC more comes in terms of the expertise. And now I come to the second question. What is the role of Switzerland or a Swiss agency like SDC? I think it really depends on the country. Now you have seen different countries. I think in India, it's not so much about the funds. We've heard the numbers, they're massive. I think it's important, it's about the expertise. It's about the exchange of knowledge. Switzerland and India, both are mountainous countries. And both of us have similar challenges when it comes to adaptation. I just mentioned springs, but they're also, I heard this morning, glacial risk, these glacier outburst floods. It's about how we actually manage the early warning systems in the mountains. But it can be also innovation in watershed management, different approaches. And I think here it's important to say in India, it's really about this exchange of knowledge. Maybe just to cite that the Uttarakhand government, we together worked actually to develop a climate responsive glacial hydrological model. And yeah, for using that then for the development of an integrated water management plan. And I think these planning, it's always very important. We test them, and if they're then well, they could be exported to other states as well. One is expertise and innovation. Here, of course, our funds can take a little bit of the risk. Maybe there's a risk, there could be a study, it could be a modeling, it can be also an interesting, I had another example I wanted to cite, technology, for example, a technology from a startup called Blue Act that actually can treat the arsenic in the water. So it's small intervention, which could be upscaled. The second very important one is probably the exchange of knowledge and invest in research. I know in India, worldwide it's done, but I think our funds as STC are always there to support our counterparts to invest into this documentation. And I know that the work is ongoing on the springs. We are now documented together with Niti Aayog and with IMVI. We are documented what are the best practices for spring shed management. That's a concrete example of how we can invest into knowledge management. And the last but not least, it's probably also about, I heard it this morning from the panelists, capacity building. Capacity building of people at all levels, and where the government wants us to come in. I think we're always really happy to do that. We work also with ICIMOD and Aquadam on supporting the capacity building in spring shed management. I think this is something we always respond very positively when the government asks us what we could do. I know there's another aspect which is very much discussed these days, which goes beyond India, is about the new financing modalities. And that is particularly relevant, not just, probably less for India, but more for other countries. It's to look at blended finance, to look at maybe having water bonds. And my colleagues in Bern, they're working on these instruments. I'm not a financial specialist, so I leave it here. But definitely, I think our role is to boost not just finances, but we need to boost expertise. We need to exchange. We need to invest in capacities. Because as we all know, climate change, we've seen the IPCC report, is a threat to all of us. And it, of course, will have an impact on the water, be it in the mountains or be it in the plains. And we definitely need that. So thank you very much. I think it's a good drive in India. And I'm happy to be here and support all Indian actors in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Corinne. Thank you for bringing this aspect from International Development Corporation, specifically the idea of bringing in innovation and cross-learning. So cross-learning in the both direction, I think this is quite pivotal in terms of synergies at international level and also in terms of knowledge exchange. With these words, I would like to thank all of the panelists for informative inputs. Now we have come to the end of our panel discussion. Thank you very much to our fantastic panelists for this enriching discussion. And I will now hand it back to Mika for taking it forward. Over to you, Mika.
Thank you, Dr. Vaibhav. Thank you, panel, for the very interesting discussion. Since we have almost 8 minutes left, let me straight away jump to the Q&A session. We have a number of questions from the audience that has come up in our chat. So I would request all our panelists and speakers, Mr. Rajiv Ahil, Dr. Alok Sikka, Mr. G. Ashok Kumar, Mr. Rohit Kumar, and Ms. Corinne Demange to be available to answer these questions. Let me start with a question that is very relevant for our session today, which is on which specific climate resilient programs are being initiated and implemented at the country level presently. And I would request Mr. G. Ashok Kumar, sir, if you would like to take this question first. Over to you, sir.
We have taken up a lot of studies and research programs under the National Water Mission. Modeling work is being done, but unfortunately, these are all done in different parts of the country. The problem with India is a vast country, and the rainfall pattern of the eastern part is different, totally different from the western part. So we have very high rainfall coming up in the eastern part and very low rain in the western part. So hence, we have actually done studies by various national institutes of high repute on the various impacts of climate change and the dynamic upscaling and downscaling modeling on that. But a country-wide perspective has not been done. This is all in different parts of it. So we probably have to do probably a country-wide research of it. That's one. We are also taking up studies in the glacier side, which Jimengi said, with Uttarakhand and all of the states, we are actually preparing what is called as a state-specific action plan, which is a comprehensive water auditing, water budgeting of the states, which factorizes the study, the requirement of water for agriculture industry, water for animals, water for all living beings, everything put together. This comprehensive study is being done, and every state is being funded to prepare the state-specific action plan for that. And third is, as I said, innovative studies, particularly in the glacier areas and also snow melting, is also being done under the auspices of the water mission. We are also providing platform for them to come and present their studies. So many of our presentations or the water tech talks are dealing with issues of climate change, and these are all available in our website. So anybody wants interested, they can have a look at our website, nwm.gov.in. Thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Let me quickly move on to another interesting question that we have got from Ms. Smaranika Mahapatra. It's on why convergence is ideal but difficult to practice. Mr. Rohit Kumar, sir, do you have your views on this, especially since you're leading the Mahatma Gandhi Narega program, which by itself is a wonderful convergence platform? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is rightly said that convergence is not easy. And this was, saying, you can say, some 7 to 8 years ago, it was really true. And we also faced a lot of difficulty initially. But I am proud to share here that our ministry are now converging with, water resources ministry for water conservation structures, agriculture ministry for, horticulture plantations, fishery, Department of Fishery for, fish ponds, Department of Animal Husbandry for cattle shed and goat sheds and silvipasture grassland, Department of Women and Child Welfare, those, creches, the Anganwadi centers we are constructing. Then we are going for food grain storage structure. Then we have convergence with T-board, Silk board. We have convergence with Silk board. We are promoting, sericulture also. And recently we had a convergence, joint guideline with the Ministry of Ayush. We are promoting medicinal plantation also. So lot of activities we are taking under convergence. And these convergence, we are also converging with Department of Forest and Environment for large scale plantations. So these are, not only convergence of just, funds, but more importantly, we are converging with funds, functions, and functionaries of all the departments. There may be a place, if you just, want to converge with funds, you may fail. Like at many places, fortunately, Mahatma Gandhi NREGA has funds. Funds is, a lot of funds available with us. So what we want, the technical inputs, the functionaries, the technical functionaries which are available with, Water Resource Ministry, with the watershed department, that is the land resource department, with the forest department. Those technical functionaries, we are taking help of them. Like with the Water Resource Ministry, we have requested them to map the aquifers and to tell us the, X, Y, that is the coordinate of the structures and the type of structures based on the aquifer map, which can be taken on the ground. Funds we will be providing, but the technical expertise we need from them. So one has to, think from that point of view. And let me tell you, that is equally important as, convergence of funds under various programs. So funds, functions, and functionaries, because if we act in silos, why functions? If we act in silos, we will fail. But if we have the convergence of functions also, because we are also going for watershed management.
Yes.
Water Resource Ministry is also going for that. The Land Resource Ministry is also going for that. The Forest Department is also going for that. That is why, realizing that, we have now come up with Yukt Dhara portal with the ISRO, with the help of ISRO. ISRO has, prepared this portal, so that all these ministry, they can plan in this portal, and so that, there is no duplicity of works. Because that is very, very important. And I'm happy to share all the works under Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, all are 100% geotagged. So,
Correct.
and that they are in the public domain. And in this portal of Yugdhara, the NRM works of under Mahatma Gandhi NREGA and Land Resource Department, all are visible in this portal. So that, you know, whatever is there is visible and whatever you are going to plan will also be visible. So monitoring becomes easy, duplicity is ruled out, you know, and transparency and accountability is ensured. So through convergence of this ministry, it is acting now as a synergy, and I'm thankful to all the departments who are, you know, conversing with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll just add one more line to what Rohit said. So Rohit takes care of all the rural areas, 99% of the country, you know, all the entire works in the rural areas, and all the departments we are doing water works. We converge through the Manrega. We also have for the gasoline campaign, we have involved the Nehru Yuva Kendra. We had 2.5 crore people participating through the national, that is the Nehru Yuva Kendra of the Department of Youth Affairs for generating the awareness campaign. We also linked up with the urban ministry for taking up the works in the urban areas, and National Water Mission as a platform for NGOs. So we are getting in NGOs, international NGOs. So it is the convergence which people were asking is now fairly happening in the ground, and thanks to the big funding from the Manrega. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We have a shortage of time, but Ms. Corinne, if you have something to add to this question in a minute, that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, no, I think my esteemed panelists said it. Convergence is a process, and it is happening where we see that together we can achieve better results. And STC always has, before it does anything in any country, including India, of course, a conversion with the government and the entities at the national and the state level. But of course, I think there we have still, as we also have seen the SDGs, we still can improve. And I think it's a journey and it's a process. And I think that's why these seminars are also important, to have the discussion together and to raise the questions. And I'm sure there we will even go further beyond. I can just say I'm really happy that we've been able to complement the government efforts on integrated watershed management and climate change here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, three of you. So that was wonderful to see the practical perspective, the technical and financial resources coming together, and Corinne further also adding the international, bilateral, multilateral agencies point of view. We are beyond time, but we have 3 minutes to wrap up. I will now invite Rajiv Ahel and Dr. Alok Sikka for their closing comments, but please feel free to also add if you have any inputs to questions that were posed before. I will first hand over to Rajiv.
Okay, thanks, Mika. Very little to add, because I think people who are in the action itself have shared very, very, very well. I think what's key in today's time is that a lot of the national programs and policies are already starting with convergence as a basis. So it's no longer silos. Secondly, Mahatma Gandhi NREGA offers itself through its 294 types of works to be called upon. So it's not just an expenditure, it's also creating wages and labor on one side. On the other side, it's creating assets. But I think the third most important thing that has been shared today is that what are these assets? What are they leading to? And I think this whole GIS-based planning that we've been working with the ministry since 2015 and helping develop this process, and very, very, very proud of the fact that it has gone to a level where 250,000 local governments by December or January would have planned their entire watersheds. I think what's interesting is this bottom-up planning, reinforced with the scientific analysis and data, with spatial information feeding and making decision-making on watershed basis easier. These panchayat plans coming together, forming a district level plan, therefore implementation operationally at a district level, and these becoming sub-basin plan for surface water management and also for layering the climate on top of this. This becomes the basis for the future. So intent, program design, and resources coming and plans meeting. And I think the ideal sweet spot for implementation and convergence is the districts, where operationally to bring people together around such plans is far more easy. And I think we are looking forward to a very exciting time where much could change and India could achieve more. Back to you, Mika.
Thank you, Raju. I think that's perfect for a wrap up. Dr. Sikka, quickly over to you as well.
I think I endorse because this time is less, and convergence is a main mantra, and it is happening. And I think in 2009, if I remember well, there was the first guideline of convergence came in, and I was one of those persons who was involved in that, along with at that time Madam Rita Sharma. So, and you also mentioned about the point of climate resilient or climate smart initiatives. So there are what Mr. Ashok Kumar said. In addition to that, they are doing a wonderful job from NWM and also National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture, which is also looking into this on climate resilience, and also and not at a very large scale, but another operational scale is a national initiative on climate resilient agriculture, which is from the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, which has been one of the big eye opener. And of course, the CG centers are also involved in climate smart villages. So I think, and so I leave it over there, and I know the paucity of time, and so wonderfully done. So over to you, Mika.
Thank you, Dr. Sikka. Thank you very much. So nothing more. I would request Faiz to put the last slide so that if the participants have any further questions, they could get back to us. On behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ, GIZ India, and the Water Management Institute, I would like to once again thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Please do go through our discussion paper and send us our comments and feedback and further questions. Leave them in the chat, or you could email them to Vaibhav or Faiz, Mohammed Alam in the email IDs that you can see on your screen. Thanks also for the polls on Pathable. It is wonderful to see your inputs. I think we had participants from India, Germany, Bangladesh, among others, as well as your takes on convergence is very interesting to note. I wish you a good day and good evening to the people in the remaining part of the world. Best wishes for the remaining sessions of the Stockholm World Water Week 2021. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.